Welcome back to our Reddit cheating channel. Where are you watching from? Please subscribe and state in comment. The rain hammered against the windows of our secluded cabin, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. Sarah sat across from me, her face illuminated by the dying embers of the fireplace. The flickering light danced in her tear-filled eyes, giving her beauty a haunted quality. We'd been married for 7 years, a seemingly perfect story of two souls intertwined since college. Now, that narrative threatened to shatter into a million pieces. "David," she began, her voice a fragile whisper, I need to tell you something." My gut clenched. Her tone, her demeanor, it was a prelude to something catastrophic. We'd come to this cabin for a romantic weekend, a desperate attempt to rekindle the spark that had seemed to fade in the face of demanding careers and the mundane routines of daily life. Now, I feared the weekend would be remembered for a completely different reason. I forced a smile, trying to inject levity into the situation. "Okay, lay it on me. Did you finally admit you hate my mother's cooking?" She didn't smile. Instead, she took a deep breath, a visible struggle to compose herself. It's about last week. Last week had been hectic, filled with late nights at the office for both of us. I had been working on a crucial presentation, and Sarah was dealing with a crisis at the hospital where she worked as a nurse. We barely saw each other. That's when it happened, I realized with dawning horror. "Last week, what about last week?" I asked, my voice suddenly tight. Her gaze dropped to her hands, which were nervously twisting a silver ring on her finger. I slept with someone else." The words hit me like a physical blow. My chest constricted, and the air seemed to vanish from the room. The roaring fire suddenly sounded like a mocking laugh. My mind raced, trying to grasp the reality of what she was saying. Sarah, my Sarah, had cheated on me. What? The word was barely a croak. Tears streamed down her face now. "I'm so sorry, David. I'm so sorry." "Who?" I managed to ask, the question raw and demanding. I needed to know. I needed to understand. Even though understanding felt impossible. She hesitated, her lower lip trembling. It was Mark. Mark Reynolds. My supposed friend. We had known Mark since college, too. He was a charismatic, successful architect, a regular at our dinner parties, someone I considered a confidant. The betrayal cut even deeper knowing it was him. "Mark." I repeated, my voice rising in disbelief. "Mark Reynolds. Our Mark? You slept with Mark?" She nodded, her sobs intensifying. "It just happened. We were at a work conference, and we had too much to drink. I was feeling so alone, so unappreciated. I know that's no excuse, David. I know I messed up. Unappreciated. Alone. What about me? I worked my tail off to provide for us, to make sure she had everything she needed. We had our rough patches, sure, but I thought we were a team. Just happened." I repeated, the bitterness dripping from my words. "It just happened. You just decided to throw away 7 years of marriage because you just happened to sleep with Mark Reynolds." She looked up at me, her eyes pleading. "No, David, that's not what I'm saying. It was a mistake. A terrible, awful mistake. It was just one night. It didn't mean anything. Just one night." I echoed, the incredulity in my voice reaching new heights. "Just one night. Are you serious? That's supposed to make me feel better." "Don't worry, honey, it was just one night. No big deal." "I know it sounds awful," she cried. "But it's the truth. It was a moment of weakness. I was vulnerable. I regret it more than anything. Regret it." I stood up, pacing the small cabin. The anger inside me was a raging inferno. "Regret it? You betrayed me, Sarah. You betrayed our marriage. You slept with my friend." "Please, David, calm down," she begged, her voice laced with fear. "I know I hurt you. I want to fix this. I want to make it up to you. Fix this." I stopped pacing and stared at her, my eyes burning. "How do you fix this, Sarah? How do you unring that bell? How do you erase what happened? She didn't answer. She couldn't. You said it was just one night, she finally said, her voice low and hesitant. Can't we just move past it? Can't we just forget it ever happened? Don't turn it into a tragedy. The sheer audacity of her words stunned me into silence. Forget it ever happened. Move past it. After confessing to cheating on me with my friend. Was she living in a fantasy world? I stared at her, speechless, for what felt like an eternity. The only sound in the cabin was the crackling fire and the relentless drumming of the rain. Finally, I managed to choke out a single word, tragedy. The word hung in the air, heavy with unspoken emotions. The rain intensified outside, as if the heavens themselves were weeping for the destruction of our love. I knew, in that moment, that Sarah's one night had irrevocably changed everything. Whether it became a tragedy, or something else entirely, remained to be seen. The rest of the weekend was a blur of accusations, tears, and strained silences. We barely slept, the tension between us a palpable thing. I couldn't look at Sarah without seeing Mark's face superimposed over hers. Every touch, every gesture, felt tainted. We drove home on Sunday in silence, the scenic mountain roads offering no solace. The beautiful vistas only served to amplify the ugliness that had consumed us. The rain had stopped, but the sky remained a somber gray, mirroring the state of my heart. Back at our suburban home, everything felt different. The familiar comfort of our living room, usually a sanctuary, now felt like a stage for a play called Betrayal. Sarah moved around the house like a ghost, avoiding my gaze, her every action burdened by guilt. I couldn't function. I called in sick to work, unable to face my colleagues, let alone focus on the presentation that had consumed me the previous week. I spent the day in a daze, replaying Sarah's confession in my head, each repetition more agonizing than the last. That evening, Sarah tried to talk. She cooked dinner, a pathetic attempt at normalcy, but I couldn't bring myself to eat. David, please, she said, her voice pleading. We need to talk. We can't just pretend this isn't happening. Pretend. I scoffed. I wish I could pretend. But you made sure that's impossible. I know, she said, her eyes welling up again. I know I hurt you. But I want to fix this. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. I repeated, a cynical edge to my voice. Really? Would you unsleep with Mark? Would you erase the last week from existence? Because those are the only things that would fix this. She flinched at my words. I can't do that, David. But I can show you how much I regret it. I can show you how much I love you. Love. The word felt hollow, meaningless. How could she love me and betray me at the same time? How? I asked, my voice devoid of emotion. How are you going to show me that? I'll go to therapy, she said. We can go to couples therapy. I'll cut off all contact with Mark. I'll do anything you want. The offer was tempting. A part of me, the part that still loved Sarah, wanted to believe she was sincere. But another part, the part that had been wounded so deeply, remained skeptical. Cut off all contact with Mark? I asked, raising an eyebrow. That includes the office. Because you work with him, Sarah. You see him every day. She hesitated. I know. It'll be difficult. But I'll do it. I'll request a transfer. I'll find another job if I have to. Her willingness surprised me. It was the first genuine glimmer of hope I had felt since her confession. Maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for us. Okay, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Therapy. We'll go to therapy. The next few weeks were a roller coaster. We found a therapist specializing in infidelity, a woman named Dr. Klein, who seemed both compassionate and insightful. The sessions were brutal, forcing us to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves and our relationship. Sarah revealed her feelings of being neglected and unappreciated, how she felt I had prioritized my career over our marriage. I, in turn, confessed my own shortcomings, my emotional unavailability, my tendency to withdraw when stressed. It was painful, but also cathartic. We started to communicate again, to listen to each other, to understand the underlying issues that had led to Sarah's infidelity. She did cut off contact with Mark, requesting a transfer to a different department at the hospital. It wasn't easy, and I could see the strain it put on her, but she remained committed to making amends. Slowly, cautiously, trust began to rebuild. We started going on dates again, rediscovering the simple joys of spending time together. We laughed, we cried, we argued, but we always came back to each other. But the memory of that one night lingered, a dark shadow in the corners of my mind. I found myself questioning everything, wondering if I could ever truly forgive her. One evening, after a particularly difficult therapy session, I confronted Sarah. "Do you regret it?" I asked, my voice tight. She looked at me, her eyes filled with pain. "Yes, David. I regret it more than anything in the world. It was the stupidest, most selfish thing I've ever done." "But why?" I pressed. "Why Mark? Why that night?" She sighed. "I don't know, David. I honestly don't. I was vulnerable, he was there, and it just happened. It was a moment of weakness, a lapse in judgment. It didn't mean anything. But it meant something to me," I said, my voice cracking. "It meant that you were capable of betraying me, of hurting me in the worst possible way." She reached out and took my hand. "I know. And I'm so sorry. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it up to you." I looked into her eyes, searching for the truth. I saw remorse, regret, and a genuine desire to repair the damage she had caused. But I also saw a flicker of something else, something I couldn't quite decipher. Was it guilt? Shame? Or something more, something hidden? The nagging feeling that Sarah wasn't telling me the entire truth continued to gnaw at me. The "just one night" explanation, while plausible on the surface, felt increasingly flimsy the more I dissected it. Why Mark? Why that particular conference? And why did she seem so desperate to just sweep it under the rug? Driven by a potent cocktail of suspicion and a desperate need for closure, I decided to do something I never thought I would. I started investigating. It began subtly. I casually brought up the conference in conversations with Sarah, trying to glean more details without arousing suspicion. I asked about the sessions she attended, the people she met, the overall atmosphere. Her answers were always vague and carefully worded, as if she were constantly editing her narrative. Then, I started checking her phone records. It was a gross invasion of privacy, I knew, but I couldn't help myself. I needed to know if she had been in contact with Mark before or after that fateful night. The records revealed a series of calls and text messages between Sarah and Mark in the weeks leading up to the conference. They were mostly innocuous, work-related communications, but there were a few that stood out. Late-night texts, unusually long phone calls, things that suggested a deeper connection than just colleagues. My stomach churned. The "just one night" story was starting to unravel. Emboldened by my findings, I took a bolder step. I contacted a private investigator. His name was Frank Miller, a grizzled ex-cop with a no-nonsense attitude and a reputation for getting results. I met Frank at a dimly lit bar on the outskirts of town, feeling like I was in a bad detective movie. I laid out the situation, my voice trembling with anxiety and anger. "My wife cheated on me," I said. "She says it was just one night, a mistake. But I don't believe her. I need you to find out the truth." Frank listened intently, his face expressionless. When I finished, he nodded slowly. "I've heard this story 1,000 times, he said. "People lie. Especially when it comes to affairs. I'll dig into it. See what I can find." I gave Frank all the information I had, Sarah's work schedule, her social media accounts, the details of the conference. I also gave him a photo of Mark Reynolds. "I want to know everything," I said. "Every detail. No matter how painful." Frank nodded. "I understand. But be prepared. Sometimes, the truth is worse than you can imagine." The next few days were agonizing. I was constantly on edge, waiting for Frank's call. I tried to act normal around Sarah, but I could feel the weight of my secret investigation pressing down on me. Finally, the call came. It was late at night, and I was sitting alone in the living room, staring at the fireplace. "I've got something for you," Frank said, his voice grim. It's not good. We met again at the same bar. Frank handed me a thick envelope. I followed your wife for a week, he said. I also did some digging into Mark Reynolds' background. The details are all in there. But I'll give you the summary version. He paused, taking a sip of his beer. Your wife and Mark Reynolds have been having an affair for months, he said. It wasn't just one night. They've been meeting regularly, both at work and outside of work. I have photos and videos to prove it. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. Months. All this time, Sarah had been lying to me, deceiving me, betraying me. The pain was almost unbearable. And Mark Reynolds? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He's a player, Frank said. He's been married twice, and both marriages ended because of affairs. He's a charming guy, good-looking, successful. He knows how to manipulate women. I opened the envelope and started looking through the photos. There were pictures of Sarah and Mark holding hands, kissing, entering and leaving hotels together. There were videos of them having dinner, laughing, looking deeply into each other's eyes. It was all there, in black and white. The truth I had been dreading. I felt a surge of anger, a blinding rage that threatened to consume me. I wanted to confront Sarah, to scream at her, to demand an explanation. But I knew that wouldn't accomplish anything. I needed to be smart, to be strategic. What do I do now? I asked Frank, my voice trembling. He shrugged. That's up to you. You can confront her, you can file for divorce, you can try to work things out. It's your life. Your decision. I stared at the photos, my mind racing. Divorce. The word hung in the air, heavy with implications. I had never imagined myself getting divorced. It wasn't part of my plan. But how could I stay with Sarah after this? How could I forgive her for lying to me, for betraying me so deeply? I knew, in that moment, that my life had changed forever. The trust was gone, the love was tarnished. The future I had envisioned with Sarah was now a shattered dream. Armed with Frank's evidence, I decided to play it cool. I couldn't let Sarah know I knew everything, not yet. I needed to gather my thoughts, formulate a plan. I spent the next few days in a state of controlled fury, going through the motions of daily life while secretly plotting my next move. I started documenting everything, dates, times, conversations, inconsistencies in Sarah's stories. I consulted with a lawyer, getting advice on divorce proceedings, asset division, and custody arrangements. Even though we didn't have children, the lawyer advised on potential future implications. The lawyer, a sharp woman named Ms. Davies, was pragmatic and direct. When I showed her the evidence Frank had compiled, she nodded grimly. You have a strong case, she said. Adultery is still grounds for divorce in this state. We can pursue a settlement that protects your interests. I spent sleepless nights agonizing over the decision. A part of me still clung to the memory of the woman I had loved, the woman I had married. But the image was fading, replaced by the stark reality of her deceit. Finally, I decided to confront her. I chose a time when we were alone in the house, a Saturday afternoon. The sun was shining, birds were singing, a cruel juxtaposition to the storm about to erupt. Sarah, I said, my voice calm but firm. We need to talk. She looked up from her book, a flicker of apprehension in her eyes. About what? About Mark, I said, watching her reaction carefully. Her face paled. What about Mark? About your. Just one night with Mark, I said, emphasizing the words. She hesitated, her eyes darting around the room. David, we talked about this. I told you everything. Did you? I asked, pulling the envelope of photos from behind my back. Because these photos tell a different story. I tossed the envelope onto the coffee table. Sarah's eyes widened as she recognized the contents. She slowly reached for the photos, her hands trembling. She looked through them, her face contorting with shame and fear. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Where did you get these? She whispered. Does it matter? I said, my voice cold. The point is, I know the truth. I know about the months-long affair. I know about the lies. She started to sob uncontrollably. David, I'm so sorry. I didn't want you to find out like this. How did you want me to find out? I asked, my anger finally breaking through. Did you think you could just keep lying to me forever? No, she cried. I was going to tell you. I swear. I didn't know how. When? I demanded. When were you going to tell me? After you ran off with Mark and left me a Dear John letter. She shook her head vehemently. No. I would never do that. I love you, David. I do. Love me. I scoffed. If you loved me, you wouldn't have betrayed me like this. You wouldn't have lied to me for months. It was a mistake, she pleaded. A terrible, awful mistake. I regret it more than anything. Regret it. I repeated, my voice rising. You regret getting caught, Sarah. That's what you regret. She didn't respond. She just sat there, sobbing, the photos scattered around her like fallen leaves. I've consulted with a lawyer, I said, my voice softening slightly. I'm filing for divorce. Her head snapped up. Divorce? David, please don't do this. We can work through this. I'm willing to do anything. Anything. I said, raising an eyebrow. You should have thought about that before you climbed into bed with Mark. Please, she begged. Give me another chance. I'll go to therapy. I'll quit my job. I'll do whatever it takes to win you back. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw the desperation in her eyes. But I also saw the deceit, the lies, the betrayal. I knew I could never truly trust her again. It's too late, Sarah, I said, my voice firm. The trust is gone. I can't do this anymore. She continued to plead, to beg, to cry. But my mind was made up. I had reached my breaking point. I'm leaving, I said, turning to walk away. I'll stay at a hotel for a few days. We can discuss the details with our lawyers. As I walked out the door, I heard Sarah's anguished cries behind me. But I didn't turn back. I knew that if I did, I might waver. And I couldn't afford to waver. The sun was still shining, the birds were still singing. But the world felt different now, colder, emptier. I was alone, adrift in a sea of uncertainty. But I was also free. Free from the lies, free from the betrayal, free to start over. The divorce proceedings were messy, as expected. Sarah contested the grounds for divorce, claiming that the affair was a result of my emotional neglect and that I had driven her into Mark's arms. It was a pathetic attempt to shift the blame, but Ms. Davies was prepared. We presented the evidence, the photos, the phone records, Frank's testimony, and the judge ruled in my favor. Sarah was ordered to pay a significant portion of my legal fees, and we divided our assets according to the prenuptial agreement we had signed years ago. I moved into a small apartment downtown, a stark contrast to the suburban home we had shared. It was lonely, but also liberating. I started focusing on myself, on my career, on my future. I threw myself into my work, landing a major promotion that had been eluding me for years. I started exercising, eating healthier, and reconnecting with old friends. Slowly, gradually, I began to heal. The pain of Sarah's betrayal started to fade, replaced by a sense of resilience and self-discovery. Then, one evening, I received an unexpected phone call. It was Mark Reynolds. David, he said, his voice hesitant. I know this is the last thing you want to hear, but I need to talk to you. I hesitated. I wanted nothing to do with Mark, the man who had destroyed my marriage. But curiosity got the better of me. What do you want? I asked, my voice cold. Can we meet? He said. It's important. We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop on the other side of town. Mark looked haggard, his eyes bloodshot, his hair disheveled. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. What's going on, Mark? I asked, my patience wearing thin. He took a deep breath. Sarah left me, he said. I stared at him, stunned. What? She left me, he repeated. A week ago. She said she couldn't be with me anymore. She said she made a mistake. I couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. Sarah had cheated on me with Mark, and now he was getting a taste of his own medicine. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, my voice devoid of sympathy. Don't you get it, David? Mark said, his voice rising. She used me. She used both of us. What are you talking about? I asked, confused. She only had an affair with me to get back at you, he said. She knew it would hurt you, and that's why she did it. I stared at him, speechless. Sarah had been plotting this all along. It seemed impossible, yet it explained so much. Her desperation to hide the truth, her willingness to do anything to win me back, her sudden change of heart. I don't believe you, I said. It's true, Mark insisted. She told me herself. She said you were neglecting her, that you didn't appreciate her, that you were always working. She said she wanted to make you jealous, to make you realize what you were losing. And you believed her? I asked, incredulous. I was an idiot, he said, shaking his head. I fell for it. I thought she really cared about me. So, what now? I asked. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know the truth, he said. I want you to know that Sarah is not who you think she is. She's manipulative, she's selfish, and she's capable of anything. I didn't know what to believe. Mark had been Sarah's accomplice in this whole mess, so why would he suddenly turn against her? Was he telling the truth, or was this just another attempt to manipulate me? I need proof, I said. I need something to back up your claims. Mark hesitated. I have something, he said. Something Sarah gave me. A letter. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. He handed it to me. She wrote this to me a few weeks before the conference, he said. Read it. I unfolded the letter and started reading. The words jumped off the page, revealing a side of Sarah I had never seen before. Mark, I can't keep living like this. David is so distant, so focused on his career. He doesn't even see me anymore. I need to do something, anything, to get his attention. I have a plan. It's risky, but I think it might work. I need your help. The letter went on to detail Sarah's plan to have an affair with Mark, to make me jealous, to force me to pay attention to her. It was all there, in her own handwriting. I felt a chill run down my spine. Sarah had orchestrated this whole thing, manipulating both me. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, share, likes and drop your comments.